This podcast may contain adult themes.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only.
The views and opinions in this podcast are expressly our own.
Honestly, every time I try to do something fun or exciting, you make it not that way.
Is it okay if I kick your boss's ass? That won't affect your workplace chemistry, will it?
All right, who did this? I'm not mad. I just want to know who did it so I can punish them.
When I get to the workplace, I like to fuck shit up.
Welcome to Let's Break Up, Toxic Workplace Stories, hosted by me, Nicola.
And me, Gina, both with many years working in corporate roles. Come along as we interview some awesome guests from around the world about their experiences with toxic workplaces.
Sharing lessons learned and providing safe, supportive place to share their stories with those who might be experiencing similar situations.
Each week, we will provide tips and ways to identify some of the challenges associated with toxic workplaces.
In today's episode...
So, hello, Nicola. How are you?
Kia ora, Gina. What are you eating, babes? Describe it in detail. Is this our ASMR episode where we're like...
You know what? I realized the last time we recorded, my microphone was like all the way over here and you could barely hear me. So I really need to make sure that I talk into the mic.
In toot, 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 toot.
Toot, 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 la, 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 la. Okay. No,
that was for our ASMR edit.
Yeah. I'm eating some high protein yogurt with mangoes.
Please, you're so healthy, it's ridiculous. I'm chubby. Yeah,
but you know what? Like, it's not fun because like I went through my workout this morning and I was like dragging ass and I was just like so fucking hungry because I go to bed hungry, I wake up hungry, and of course I'm like, okay, so this means my body's losing weight. I've like plateaued at this current weight for like the past week.
Shit.
It'll move, but it's just so fucking annoying because you're just like, I'm doing the most and I'm getting the least. You know what I mean? It's just frustrating.
I'm so sorry. That sucks. Like,
I can't even... though. It's part of weight loss, you know? And then of course my other favorite is you're like doing everything right and then you get on the scale one morning and it like shoots up to some ridiculous number and you're like, why?
No, then you just need to poop and then you're good to go. Please.
That's true. That's 400 grams of air.
I'm chubby. Oh my God, I'm going to start that as like my next theme song. You know, first we had my other theme song. Now I'm going to start a new theme song.
If any song on the planet could be your theme song, what would it be? Oh. Inquiring minds want to know.
Inquiring minds. Oh, that's really tough. Like a theme song for my life.
Yeah, or just like that.
Because I just can't wait to be king. Nobody says do that. Nobody says be there. Nobody says stop that. Yeah,
I think you didn't ask, but I'm going to tell you.
Oh no, I'm curious to know. Inquiring minds must know.
I think it's going to be old school Michael Jackson. Want to be starting something. Starting something.
Want to be starting something. Oh
yeah,
God.
I mean, okay. It's a good one. And also, I'm the type of bitch that likes to fuck around and find out. So I'm always starting something.
Oh, yeah. Look, hey, you know what? I'm going to give you some kudos this week. I am so proud of you for checking in on how you are writing your emails to others.
Why? What did I do?
I'm so proud of you because we spoke about it. These weeks are like blending together.
I know, because we're doing
these episodes are like blending together, but we spoke about it.
Talking to what's her name? Joanna, who I love.
Oh my God, I think I love her too. I'd like to be her when I grow up. But essentially you kind of you took that conversation on board. I love that you did that. Look at you reflecting on self.
I know.
I mean, kudos to you. Good 5 bonus point kudos to you.
Thank you. Yeah, because I'm like, I do have to go back and even say like, hi, so-and-so. Can I just have a side note? I was trying to eat that piece of mango and recently I got Botox in my upper lip. So
no, you fucking didn't.
Yeah, they put it like right here to like help with like, you know, like the smoker lines women get as they get a little bit older.
Do you have smoker lines?
No, but I don't know what else to call it. Like the fine lines that you get around your mouth as you like age. So yeah.
You do have good lips though.
I was like, what can I do about these like little fine lines that I'm probably the only one who thinks I'm getting them. So my injector was like, well, just put a little tiny bit of Botox in it. So I was like, sounds good. What I did not realize is that it like, I didn't really think it through because it like paralyzes right here. So like when I'm like trying to Yeah. So I'm like trying to chew up like a slightly large piece of mango and like my lip is not cooperating. When I'm trying to like rinse my mouth out with mouthwash, the mouthwash is like,
That is the dumbest place to put Botox I've ever heard of. We're pretty excited to be chatting with you today.
yeah. We
We're
were just
pretty.
discussing my Botox
Lips.
situation.
I was like,
Yeah.
who puts Botox in their lips? Because now she's
Well,
like,
it's not in the lip. It's
just like a
above,
fucking
it's above
camel.
it.
It's
It's
at the
above
top.
it.
Yeah.
Bitch, please.
It's just
now
like
you're gonna,
right above it.
it's like when you go to the dentist and then
Kind
your whole
of.
face is like, ugh, and then you're
A
like,
little
oh,
bit,
let me
but it's like it's
blah, blah,
only noticeable like when I'm like eating, trying to drink from a straw or like rinse my mouth out, and then it's like everything's just like, and I'm like, oh my gosh.
as I mentioned, I'm super excited to introduce Debs today. We have worked together, and we actually work in the identical industries, which is quite entertaining, and it's how we met. We met at a workplace. Debs is absolutely one of my favorite leadership people in the industry because she's really thoughtful and empathetic, and she's an amazing leader. And I think, you and I were just chatting about this, but one of the other things, that we want to ask her about, because fun times, is she also mentored the COO at the toxic place you and I met at.
I don't know if you could see that very quick eye roll I just did, but that's about what I'm going to say about that.
Yeah. So curious to know just the thoughts there. But Debs, would you like to introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about you and where you've come from and kind of the industries you've worked in, a little bit more about you, babe.
Thank you for the cool introduction. Feel honored to be on the call. Thanks for asking me. Yeah, my name is Deborah. I've worked globally in many different industries, mostly in health, safety, well-being, quality, and environment. But I've had the opportunity to work with big corporate companies, family-owned companies, and kind of got to see the difference between some real toxic workplaces and good workplaces that allow for people to thrive. So it's been really interesting, my journey. I originally from South Africa, moved to New Zealand 5 years ago.
Surrounded by South Africans, I swear, because my daughter's nanny is also South African.
Yeah,
so I live with the South Africans
all over the world. Did 2 degrees in South Africa, so one of them being banking and the other one Bachelor of Business Administration, and then got into safety and really loved it. Got the opportunity to manage and lead teams in Africa and in Europe, all over the world, and now in New Zealand. So really exciting. I'm really passionate about that. If you ask me if I choose any other industry, any other career, I'd say no, because I really love what I do. And Nicola will tell you how passionate I am about it. I live and breathe safety. So yeah, it's just something that I've really taken to. And again, I've worked in environments where there's been a lot of men, and it is male dominated, and it's extremely hard. However, I'm happy that I've gone through my experiences of trying to prove myself, because it's really made me stronger and more resilient and understanding of different workplaces and how to handle different environments. So yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I also lived in England for a while, and like all South Africans do, go over and have a bit of a gap year, or years as it was for me. But again, had the opportunity to work in various different environments, not only safety, but yeah, got to experience lots of different aspects of business, and kind of really my forte now is I'm back in banking, and I'm really enjoying it. Really getting the opportunity to use some human-centered design and some design thinking, which is awesome. And to bring that into safety is kind of revolutionary in our industry. Yeah, so that's me.
Let's dive into some of those really toxic workplaces that you have experienced, because I know there's been a few. And then I say we circle on back in to some of the really good workplaces that you've worked in, and some of the suggestions you can give to people that might be listening to say, hey, here's an opportunity to do better. Here are some of the things that other people are doing. All right. So what do you think is the most toxic workplace you've worked in?
I think for me, coming to New Zealand, very naive as to kind of the work style and the workplace. It's a bit different to South Africa. So I started my career and it was really tough. So you can imagine being in transport and logistics is hard enough for a woman, but being surrounded by men all the time becomes quite a difficult situation. So my story really is about how I was in a really senior position and I was really enjoying it, really had a really good time, really making my mark in the company. And I got to work with many different people. And one particular person that I worked with was a senior person, quite senior. And we formed a friendship. At first, I thought he was a bit of an arrogant prick. You know, we started to get on, and I thought that, you know, he was a genuine person and he really cared about the company and what it stood for at the time. But then it started to get more of a harassment kind of process. So yeah, it started with calls in the early hours of the morning, and it started to get like I would have to go to his office all the time, and there was no way out of it because I had to work with the operational people, right? And eventually, to cut a long story short, it got so bad that I felt intimidated in board meetings, and it kind of forced me to. I'm not saying that I'm all innocent in the whole situation. However, it did end up in me and my marriage breaking down. It was a difficult situation, put it that way. And all along, if I had been a man in that position, this would never have happened. And I felt that he used his power to create this toxic base where it kind of me down the wrong path, put it that way. And then I found out later that he had had many affairs with different people in his previous work and at that particular. So for me, I think that having this kind of toxic person, it's really intimidating. My entire life spiraled out of control. So I can say that from my experiences, and look, it got to much worse where it really made me go into a real depression. If we can avoid those kind of situations in the future and help people to recognize those type of signs or people, then that can be avoided. And my hope is that there will be people out there that this has happened to. It's not the first time. We know that there's places all over the world that experience this type of harassment. And really, I see it as a bit of a bullying tactic, to be honest, forcing someone to, get close to them, creating opportunities, every opportunities you can to intimidate them and to break you down.
Can you explain how it went from being friendly to feeling harassed? Because I feel like I need that gap to be bridged somehow.
Yeah, I think he created the opportunity for himself, for me to always be there. So he was in operations and I was in safety, right? So for my job, if there's ever anything that I think that someone's unsafe or they need my help, then I would be there. And he took advantage of that by creating environments where he needed me to be at all his meetings. He needed me to be after hours. And the whole time was the excuses were, oh, I need you to help me with this safety problem or this safety issue that I have. And at first I thought that was genuine. That was what he needed me for. But then it became like he started paying me a lot of attention. And he started creating opportunities for us to go out to lunch, for example. And things just started to escalate. He acted like he was really caring for me. He was very empathetic. He paid me a lot of compliments and just openly always being there for me. And it felt like he was supporting me, but he had an ulterior motive and an ulterior agenda at the end of it. I wasn't going through a really good time with my husband at the time. So I was kind of looking for that attention, and he was just giving it to me. And he wasn't afraid to call me at 2-3 in the morning to say, oh, Deborah, I've got a problem here, or I need your help here. And then the conversation started to turn into personal
There
conversation.
it is. Because I'm like, so far, I don't feel like, yes, the timing of the phone calls are
Problematic.
questionable, but you know, if you're working in logistics, things happen at 2:00 in the, like, you know, I work in supply chain, so I get that. I mean, there could have legitimately been a reason. So once it started getting personal, I'm just going to ask, was it like sexual in nature? Did it get like that, like right away? Like, did it ramp up?
Yes, it did ramp up. And then it
Okay.
was like, I need you to send me a picture of yourself, or because
Did you oblige?
Did you send a picture?
Did
'Cause
you
my
send pictures?
My younger self would have been like, ooh, okay. Like, I learned my lesson many years ago, but I can't like pick shame anyone. I would have sent the pic.
I did because
Yeah.
I wanted the attention, right?
I get it. And you're younger and you're like trying to like, you don't,
And you're
it's
not uber happy in the marriage, and like,
and
you
you're
just
probably
need
like trying to
attention.
navigate like the corporate landscape. So you're like, he's in my corner. Like, I get it. I would absolutely, I would have been like, panties or no panties. No, I mean, I was crazy when I was young.
True.
Like,
Right.
it didn't,
so
like, I
true.
think like in my 30s, I started to really calm the F down. But like in my 20s, I would have been like, oh yeah, I have great boobs. Want to see them? Like, all right. So you sent the pictures. Now I'm here for this. So, but yeah, go ahead. Tell us the story.
Yeah, so then it started because I traveled a lot, and so did he, right? So eventually, you know, after a while, and I said to him, I'm leaving my husband, to make space for our relationship. And it was a trying time. He used to phone me all the time, and he wasn't in a good space. I honestly think he was on drugs, to be honest, because his moods were kind of up and down all the time. And for me, I know that behavior because I've been there myself, and I just knew something was not right. And he would work late at night, wouldn't sleep a lot. So to me, it's just that
There's definitely something going on, whether it's drugs or mental health issues.
Definitely health and mental health issues, with calling me to say, Deborah, I need you to cover for me because I can't make it up to work. I'm lying in my hotel room. Can you come and see me? I need you to come see me because I just can't handle the situation. So putting the guilt trip on me as well. He would phone me at times when I was with my husband and my children, you know, I'd be having to hide the phone. Eventually, my husband did find the text messages because we were texting, obviously. My husband wanted to try again with us. So I was willing to try again, but it continued, me sending photos and having to be there when I felt like so anxious because I had to be there for his every beck and call. So it started to get like every hour he would call me, he would send me messages, and it'll be up and down. One day he'd need me, next day he would tell me to fuck off. So very erratic,
very
behavior.
narcissistic as well.
It's a very codependent kind of relationship that he set up, and I'm not defending anyone or throwing anyone under the bus, but at that time in your life you fed right into it.
I did,
that codependent, like
he was very controlling. So
but it's okay. So caveats. This is not the first time I've heard the story, but it feels right now. It feels like the first time I'm hearing the story, right? But now when I listen back to it, I'm like, actually, this is really predatory. Like he's using your vulnerability here to his advantage, and that's really predatory.
Yeah, it's that it goes to me. It's that domestic violence piece around control and coercion. Yeah. So it's really wanting to get the control of me. And once he had it, then he was okay with it. And then, he would push me away. So it'd be constant pushing me closer, bringing me closer, and then pushing me away, constant. And that was, to be honest, I lost 20 kgs at the time when it happened. Now, I left that workplace and because I got another job. And personally, I just couldn't handle working with him. I just needed to get away.
So can I just ask a quick follow-up question? You said you told him you were leaving your husband and to make like part, I guess that was a bigger decision
Yeah.
on both of your parts, but then you said, you know, to make room for our relationship. Did he go cold at that point? What happened?
He did. So he went
I had a
cold
feeling.
completely. He went cold.
But he also spent some time, you know, kind of stalking you for a little while
Yeah,
as well on
So
digital
this was
media.
after. Yeah, so this was after, right? So then he moved away with his girlfriend. And this was, a year went by. I had a new job and I was doing really well in my new job. And I was just getting on with my life. Then he started contacting me on social media, on LinkedIn. He started looking at my profile all the time, like every hour on the hour. And then he sent me an email and said, Deborah, contact me. I need to talk to you. So I called him and it all ramped up all over again. By this time, I was separated from my husband. I was dating other people and getting on with my life and starting to, you know, really pick up the pieces, living on my own and basically had everything. And then he started ramping it up again. And then my life took another slump because, again, it's that coercion and control. Pull me one day, he wanted me, the next day telling me to fuck off. Same thing over and over. And I fell for it, right? Because I thought that he was my person. I thought that he was the one for me. So really, that wasn't the case. He was just playing me. And then he ended up coming back into the country and I met him at his hotel room. And that time we did have sex. I felt nothing. I felt numb. Like I honestly didn't feel anything. And I told him that I didn't feel anything. Like it just felt shitty.
Like, was it formal dating while you guys were working together?
No.
Or was it just kind of like, okay, I
No,
understand
it was
the situation. It was like a situationship.
And he's since met someone and he knows exactly what I do and exactly whom I'm in a relationship with. And look, now I have an amazing partner who's really, really awesome. And he knows my entire story. And he knows the situation. And yeah, I've completely blocked that other person out of my life.
Like the right thing to do.
Yeah,
because
totally.
You even said it. You're like, he came back in and then my life like went to shit again.
What are some of the others? Because I know you and I.
Yeah, I want to hear some of the others.
Yeah, we've worked in
maybe
similar industries, especially male-dominated industries.
Yeah. Again, it's that giving people. Sometimes people can't handle being a leader because power kind of goes to their head. And they don't know how to handle the situation. So you give someone the opportunity to be a leader, right? But you have to equip that person to be a leader. You can't just put someone in the position and expect them to thrive. Because if someone's not a natural leader and they haven't had the experience of being a leader, there's no ways that they're going to thrive because they'll take it straight to the space of, I've got to micromanage my team. I need to make sure that I know what they're doing at every time of the day. I don't have the maturity to give them or create the environment that makes them thrive.
Which actually kind of leads us into that question that we had kind of lined up for you, is you actually mentored the COO of the workplace that Gina and I met at.
Yeah. And she was a huge micromanager. Huge.
Yeah.
Huge.
So tell us a little bit about your experience mentoring the COO.
I think for me, I found that there was not the maturity there. There was not the experience of being a leader. And again, I go back to, you need to have the tools to equip a leader. You can't just put them in a leader position and expect them to run with it. Either you have the experience, which is over time, and you've built up your tools, your toolkit, and you've managed big teams and small teams, and you can read people, you are empathetic. And if you're not in that space, it's very difficult for you to now manage a team because you automatically want to take control, right? Because you think that, I always look at it at this, there's a difference between a manager and a leader. Now, a manager loves to manage and loves to use the old school way of thinking, which is,
command and conquer.
Team. Yeah, don't trust my team. I need to have the glory for everything. And that's the kind of impression I got of that particular person. I don't think that that person was equipped, first of all, so to be in that position.
They were like, I don't mean to cut you off, but they were 15 years younger than me, walking into a role that, and they had zero corporate experience.
100%.
And it was hard for me to reconcile someone, and I think Nicola felt the same way. You know, I have almost 20 years of corporate experience, and both the CEO and COO were both in the same boat. They had almost virtually no experience. For me to be like slapped on the wrist when I was too firm in an email really was a hard pill to swallow, because it's like, I have to be firm because I actually know better, because I've lived it 15 times in the past. You know, it just ignites that frustration. It brings me right back to that period where I literally had one of their journals and I was banging it on the desk because I was so fucking frustrated. So yeah, I mean,
so do you think that startups, for example, do you think that they're ill-equipped to, as they grow, they don't really think about that leadership piece and what it means to put the right people in the right position?
They think so. In this particular startup, they thought they were doing that, but when you have someone in a hiring position like the COO and CEO who have no experience actually hiring the right people, who don't even know the actual role that they need to hire, it's a whole shit show. That's why you need to bring in a legitimate HR or hiring manager who has done this before and have them take over. I could literally have a podcast just on how fucked up all of their procedures were. You know,
stop
like
that.
And like 25 weeks worth of just like talking about it. But you know, Nicola and I don't want to give them that much attention because it's not worth it. But it really, like, it brings me right back to that frustration, because you nailed it. It's like there was lack of experience and lack of maturity. So
can we just pause here for a second and remind people that if this podcast is something you enjoy, we would love to hear from you.
You can find us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube at Let's Break Up Toxic Workplace Stories.
Sharing and subscribing really helps us feel validated.
Yeah.
Anyway, carry on.
Definitely. And I think, it's just someone trying to, they've been put in that position and trying to take control and basically get all the glory for it, because they think they're doing the right thing, but they're actually not. So the advice that I had given that person was not taken on board. And
of course it wasn't.
Went straight back to and I said to Nicola this before, what I got the impression, and I hate sugar sweet people, where they're so nice and behind your back they will tear you apart, and that's the impression that I got.
For sure. Meanwhile, I was fired because I told people exactly what I thought of them to their face, and would then repeat it and say, well, I already told so-and-so that I think her idea is bullshit. And that's why I got fired. Who would you rather on your team?
Oh, I'd rather someone be honest, to be honest. Yeah.
Honest, to be honest.
Yeah. But like, so would I would like someone to be like, Jeannie, you're being fucking annoying and micromanaging me. Please go away. And I'd be like, okay, fair.
Yeah. And that's the thing. I always remember when I worked with my team at a huge organization, and I always said to them as their leader, if I'm doing something wrong, you have
tell me.
Come into my office and tell me, talk to me about it. And they did. And I had to swallow my pride and take it. But it made me a better person. And it made me understand the situations that they were being put in. For example, I was putting too much pressure in terms of workload or whatever that is. But it really created that open door policy where they could come and tell me and I could go to them and we could be honest with one another. Mm-hmm. And it created the environment where our team really thrived. And it wasn't just me being the leader. Yes, I was there to guide and provide my experience, but I let them get on with it. And even now I do the same thing. I'm not a micromanager, and people will tell you that I'm a mentor that allows creativity for people to bring their own ideas, and that creates for a thriving environment.
I agree.
It does though, right? Like, you and I have spoken about this so many times, and we've spoken about what leadership should look like and what leadership is and what leadership, how it should make people feel, and what is that, because you and I have spoken in depth about toxic positivity, especially when I was working at that particular workplace, because I think I bitched about it to you multiple times, because it's not in our South African blood, right? This is rubbish. It's like, why am I being reprimanded for telling you how I think your business should run? And I think all of these things have really provided a positive foundation for you and I to lead better, to be better managers, to be better leaders, to be better and know what we shouldn't do, because we've had these really bad examples.
100%. And you never stop growing as a leader, right? There's mistakes that you make every day, and there's things that you learn from every day. And if in safety we call you fail safe, right? So do stuff where you can fail safe. So we have to make mistakes to be better leaders, and we have to make mistakes to grow. And if you don't have that growth mindset, then it doesn't make for a good leader in the future. So again, it makes you a good manager, but there's no space for managers anymore. People want leaders. People want
change agents, people that can
100%.
fire you up and get you excited about your work and plan your work in a way that makes you feel confident that you're coming to work in I'm not saying a toxically positive environment, but you're coming to work in a positive environment. You feel confident in the work that you're doing, and you're happy with the space that you're at.
100%. Yeah.
So, okay. So circling all the way, I feel like that's going to be my catchphrase in
that
this.
That is like mine's like problematic.
Yours is problematic, and mine's like, okay, circling back.
And gorgeous.
And gorgeous. You're gorgeous. Shut up. You're gorgeous. You and your Botox lips. So gorgeous.
That can't like actually suck from a straw.
Oh no.
I can't even deal. Like, okay, I'm curious to know now. How are you like giving blowjobs at this point? Because what's this like?
What? And I was like, okay, so like, because when Botox takes about a week and a half to like really set in, so that the muscle's paralyzed. So around like the week and a half mark, I really started like noticing that I couldn't move it. So I was like, you got to tell me if this like fucks with my technique. And he's like, no, you're good. Because I guess it's like you're not like you're not like puckering when you're giving a BJ. You're kind of like I have to really concentrate to do it. So there's the answer.
Christ. Debs, back to you. What are some other kind of experiences you've had? Because I know you've had a few. What are some other really crazy experiences you've had where you're like, oh my God, this is such a red flag, or oh my God, this should not be happening?
One of the examples would be working in Africa. So I looked after 9 African countries for health and safety, which meant that I had to travel to many different places in Africa. And one particular place was very male dominated, and having to deal with male issues was quite an experience for me, because I was really the only woman in the environment or in the country that was working on this project, and I had to deal with situations that we had men living in a villa, sex workers, and it was really an eye-opener for me.
Wait, is that considered a no-no? Having sex workers come into like a company?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, here in America, I would say it would be frowned upon, but like, I don't know, maybe culturally it's different elsewhere. I want to err on the side of caution.
You're working and you are camping in a working environment.
Yes.
Right. So hire sex workers on your own time, not on work time, and not in work.
Yeah, exactly. And not at your work hotel, babes.
That's what I'm saying. Like, and not at the work hotel. Yeah.
No, the thing was, it was a villa, right? That the company hired for people.
This sounds like oil and gas Love Island.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like The Bachelor, like the Bachelor villa.
Oil and gas Love Island in the villa.
Too hot to handle.
Exactly.
Fire and ice.
But the problem is, there was some
Yeah, go
married
ahead.
men in there, right? And they raised the issue because their wives would call and there would all be this activity going on and stuff happening. So
So it sounded like a porn in the background.
yes,
Ah,
exactly.
ooh,
Yeah.
it's Love Island, Oil and Gas. Welcome to
Exactly.
today's episode.
So for me, only woman trying to sort this situation out was quite extreme, and luckily I didn't stay in the villa. I stayed
Sure.
in my own apartment, right? So it was a difficult situation, but imagine trying to now have a chat with these men who are older than you, and I was in my 20s, and now trying to have a chat with these older men to tell them not to have this situation. You can imagine how that went down, right?
Were they like verbally abusive, or were they just like run along now?
You're such a cute little girl. Oh my God. Like,
Well,
run
no, I
along from our
remember
villa. Our
when
sexy
I was
villa.
like in my 20s, and I've always looked like way younger than my age, and guys, like men would be like, well, how old are you? And I'd be like, old enough to have this job. I'm like, why does that matter? If I'm qualified to have the job, I'm qualified to have the job. Like, you run
100%.
along.
And that's the thing is I've always looked young myself, and I've always had to prove myself because people would automatically think, and again, I've worked in male dominated environments my entire life, so people would always be thinking, oh, what does that little girl know, or what does she know about it? And when I've been in meetings and things, then they kind of, oh, okay, she does know what she's talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I always get like a weird sense of satisfaction when I see that they're like, oh, okay, she's a lot smarter than because
I was talking about this with someone the other day, and when you know me like on a personal level, you guys know me on a personal level, right? And I'm super fun, and I don't often talk about what is going on in my brain, right? So when it comes out, it shocks people because I'm like, oh no, there's actually quite a bit going on back there. And someone said to me the other day, because they were like, oh, you seem a little ditzy. And I was like,
really?
Bitch, please.
I
back
get
that track up.
Okay, wait, can I tell a Nicholas story real quick? So one of the first, and I don't think you even know this because what you just said just reminded me of this, but like one of the first couple times that I had interactions with Nicola, it was on these like leadership meetings, and I would get there before other people would get there, and the meeting actually started, and she was always talking about otters and like
otters.
showing like otter stuffed animals, and I was like, what the fuck is, like, what is even going on? So I kind of thought like maybe there was like but now that like after that period of time went and now we've reconnected, because we didn't really work together all that much. I'm like constant, like, so I did think you were kind of like a little like out there ditzy, but then now that I'm working with you, I'm always like so surprised at how smart, like not really so surprised, but I'm like, you continually like make me happy by how smart you are. I'm like, oh God, she's like, wow, that's smart. Like,
Or fun fact about baby otters.
Here we go. This is what I'd come into. I'd like log on. I'd be like miserable to be there. And this one would be prattling on about baby otters. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck about an otter.
Let me tell you though, baby otters, they've done a study on how baby otters lift your dopamine levels. And when you look at baby otters, they lift your dopamine. So I am 100% behind looking at more baby otters.
Me too. I mean, I would be into it now, but I think I was so fucking depressed in our toxic workplace that nothing was going to do it. A baby otter, a baby teddy bear, whatever, not going to do it.
Debs and I secretly look at baby cows.
Oh my God, they're gorgeous.
No, but like the miniature ones, the miniature fluffy ones.
I know.
Oh my God, we love them.
Are you talking about like the ones that have like the reddish brown kind of?
Yes.
Those are the ones. Yeah,
with their little eyes and their little fat nose. Oh,
do they stay that small though?
They do.
Yes.
Do you? Yeah. Okay, now I'm really on board.
Yeah, it's like having a little dog. Yeah.
like those little mini ponies. Those are.
I'm sure they have like health issues though, right? Like I'm worried that they have health issues.
I think they do. I think. Remember, we tried to find the breeder in Wellington.
We did try. We found her though.
How do they breed them to be that tiny?
I don't know.
Yeah, there's got to be like, it's got to be
Something.
slightly unethical. Okay, can we get back to Deb here and
Please.
because aren't they like away from their families for months at a time?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And they work,
Yeah.
so they work like 6 weeks on, 6 weeks off. So
Right.
it's almost basically like 24 hours kind of working. And then you have, a couple of hours sleep, etc. So in actual fact, they're all on contract in the workplace, whether they in their villa or whether they're still at work on
Yeah.
those.
Like even if they're sleeping, they're still technically on work. Yeah.
Work. So there's processes and policies around that, which are not adhered to, and probably still not to this day. But I just think that the wives would be waiting back home, and some would be completely faithful, and those would be the ones that would complain, and then some would be, majority would be like, what's done in that country stays in that country. Like, look, eventually they had to, because I took it further. I took it to a senior leadership, and they had to abide by the rules, so it did get a good outcome, but I'm sure that it's not 100% adhered to anyway. Other areas, again, just having people have their own agendas, leaders that will take all the work that you've done and take that and get the glory for themselves. There's a lot of that around. People have hidden agendas, and I think that's quite is quite prevalent in the corporate world, where everybody's trying to climb the ladder, so they will try and do everything in their power to get there if they have to step over you. And look, I'm not 100%. I've probably done that myself in my career, but at the same time, I've learned from that, really, that doesn't get you where you need to go. You need to be true to yourself. And being a leader means that you need to be someone that people can look up to, someone that, you stay true to yourself. You are a person that's empathetic. You make sure that you can be vulnerable, that you can be honest. That honest piece gets a long way. If you're going to be leading someone and you're going to tell them what they want to hear, what's nice to hear, then you're not going to really help them to grow, right? So when you talk about being honest and telling people up front what what you think of them, or what you think that they're not doing right, or what they are doing right, I think that's really important. Don't sugarcoat things. You need to be honest. Otherwise, the person's never going to grow. Your team member's never going to grow. Your team's not going to grow. So you can take feedback, fine, as a leader, and you can create that environment where you ask your people what they think of you, to give you feedback, positive and negative feedback. But at the same time, they need to be ready to take feedback too. And you've got to prepare them for that environment to say, right, if you don't have negative or positive feedback, you're never going to grow, and then you're never going to be a good leader. So if we want to promote good leaders and what good leaders should look like, then we need all of those traits to be able to show people the way, in other words.
What are some of the best workplaces you've seen? What are some of the things that have really shone out for you as not toxic workplaces?
I think for me right now, I'm in a really good space. I have a really positive leader, a leader that creates environments for me to thrive and for the team to thrive. But in saying that, some people they find it difficult to. I think some people are not born leaders, put it that way. So within the teams, what I see sometimes is that you may have a leader that creates environments for you to thrive, but then you also have people within your team that want to be told what to do, that want to have direction, that want to not play in that ambiguous space. Now, Nicola, you and me, we can play in that space because we're quite autonomous with it, the way that we work. And leave us to solve a problem, we'll find the solution, right? And we'll go about it in a way that will bring stakeholders along the journey. We're quite engaged and quite collaborative. Now, there are some people that aren't in that space, and it's very difficult for them to
learn to be in
Yes.
that space.
Yes,
'Cause
very.
I feel like, and this is no affront on those people, but sometimes you've got like that natural intuition to be
Yeah.
a collaborative stakeholder engager, and sometimes you just don't,
Yeah.
and that's okay, because if that is not what you have in your toolbox or your natural skill set, better at it. You can push yourself into that space, or find yourself something that's a little bit more, like in our industry, for example, a little bit more policy or compliance based, where you're not engaging necessarily with those communities of people.
Look, I mean, choose the right career for what your personality, okay,
and your strengths.
Yes, exactly. But I also say that you can learn things, right? You may not have the ability to network or engage or be collaborative. However, there's no reason why you can't learn to do that. You have to be bold and brave to put yourself into that situation to grow. I didn't start out I was very compliancy. I mean, coming from banking, I started my career in banking, and as you can imagine, finance, it's quite structured, it's risk-based. You're not really communicating in the old days with lots and lots of people, right? Going and learning about different things in your life. For example, in my career, I took a step back to go into that innovation and design thinking space. But I'm so glad that I did, even though there were ups and downs in my experiences, as you know. I think, and we said this to each other the other day, we're actually glad that we did that, right? Because it really made us more resilient, and it made us go outside of our comfort zone. At the time, it wasn't very nice. We didn't enjoy it, right? And we were pushed and we were challenged to the brink of breaking point. However, now looking back on it, how awesome to be able to take those tools that we've learned and put them into a space that
is safe.
Yes, and we can teach others, right? So again, I say that it's not impossible. If that's not your forte, it doesn't mean that you can't try new things, and you can't you have to put yourself into vulnerable situations to be able to grow. Because if you don't do that, then you're never going to expand as a leader. We grow every single day. There's new things I learn all the time in my position, and I'm fortunate enough to be given these opportunities because I have a willingness. My mindset is that growth mindset. I have a willingness, and people see that. They will see that you are keen to learn, that you are keen to give your opinion, even if it's wrong. Who cares? At least you're having a say, right? What's the worst that can happen? Someone can shut you down. So what? At least you've tried. At least you've put your idea forward. So I think you have to build up that resilience to take bad feedback and to take good feedback too.
Yeah, I had someone on my team who made up bad feedback that I said in a team meeting, and I was like, I never said that. Have you ever come across anything like that?
Yeah, a few times. I think for me, again, it's standing strong and true to who you are, and it's guiding that person. And I've worked with some people who don't like my leadership style, which is to create environments where people can thrive and bring in their own ideas. Lots of time they'll come to me and say, Deborah, what should I do in this situation? And I'll be, what would you do?
What do you do?
What are some of the things that, kind of throwing it back.
What's funny is we have a very similar leadership style, and we will bounce it off each other.
But it puts people in the spot, right? Because they're coming to you because you're the leader. They're expecting you to give them the answer, but they're never going to grow if you're going to give them the answer. Okay. Look, it's good to be there to guide and to say, but the first protocol is, what are you going to do? And you have to teach people to start coming forward with their own ideas.
And think for themselves.
Yes, think for themselves.
Excited.
Yes, exactly. If they're used to a leader, and I've been in the situation where the leader, my predecessor, in many situations has been a very controlled leader. So they haven't provided an opportunity for their team to grow. All they've said is, this is what we're doing, and I need you to go and do this. And so the team gets lazy. They get used to someone telling them what to do all the time, and they get comfortable with that. And then comes a leader like myself or Nicola, or Gina, and we're different. We want to have people to be part of the solution. We want people to contribute. We want people to collaborate. We want people to go out and find out things. And that's not always easy for them, right? And it puts them in that ambiguous situation where they think, oh shit, I don't like this leader because she's not helping in terms of giving me the answers. But that's not what a leader does. That's what a manager does. But that's not what a leader does.
I've had situations where people underneath me think that they're being like autonomous and able to like work in that ambiguous space, but they're really not. And then they're not actually open to feedback. And I feel like that creates its own little web of toxicity. Yeah. Or then I've had other situations where they were mistakenly thinking that they were the leader of the group when they're not. And then the actual leader, in this case, myself, comes in and kind of says, okay, right now we're all going to be answering to me for like the next 90 days just to get some shit together, affect change management. And that created like a shitstorm. I don't know. I just feel like that goes back to like the C-suite leaders who are not doing their jobs effectively. It's like a trickle down theory. You know, it's like if the owners or CEO, COO can't figure it out and don't know how to not micromanage, it's just going to be a fucking mess underneath.
It is. And I guess that comes from experience and maturity, right? But it also needs to be their willingness to change. Because if they're not willing to change, then it's almost like it's a lost cause. It's almost like they need someone completely like an independent to come in and say, right, the way that you're leading is damaging your business. It's detriment to your profits. It's detriment to your product. That's what.
Well, I think Nicola and I were doing that in our particular thing, but I think this is like a very interesting phenomena. They did not want to hear it.
Yeah.
So it became, I'm the problem. Nicola's the problem. But then it's like, okay, and especially me, I was completely objective. I had no idea this company even existed. And I stepped in and I was like, whoa, you guys aren't using any kind of retail buying calendar. Like, this is, how are you getting anything done? How are you getting anything done properly? And I was just told I was like basically a condescending cunt. And I didn't, that's essentially what it boiled down to.
Yeah.
That I was being a condescending cunt who came from too much of a competitive background. And I'm like, oh yes, I'm competing with the people underneath me who've never had another job and the people above me who've never had another job in their entire life except for this one. So yes, I am being so competitive.
So the thing is with them, it sounded like they wanted change to happen, but they weren't ready for it, right? They weren't ready for the real truth. To be honest, it sounds to me that yes, they wanted to expand. Yes, they wanted to have new people with new ideas coming in, but they weren't ready for the truth. They weren't ready for someone to come in and say, look, if we're going to really be successful, we need to do it this way. So I would say that they weren't ready for change. And no matter whether it was you, whether it was Nicola, whether it was anyone else,
like an expert coming in, they still wouldn't. They just wanted everyone to drink the Kool-Aid, essentially. Yeah. Have you ever been in any workplaces that are similar to what?
Oh, 100%. As for example, didn't listen to the directors, didn't listen. So they employed directors into the company who had a wealth of experience, and all the directors basically resigned because the family was not prepared to listen to what they were saying. And what happened? The company lost all their money, and they basically resigned because the family just didn't listen to them. And the company,
waste.
100%. And I tried to make change. The CEO tried to make change. The CFO tried to make change, and the family just didn't want to listen. They didn't want to listen. So the
Did
CEO
they end up going out of business?
No,
they didn't. They sold their business. Yeah, they sold it. It was just a classic example of they wanted change. They wanted to understand why their business was not making money. So they got all the right people in the right places. And when the people in the right places started telling them that they need to change their business model, need to do this, need to try this, they wouldn't listen because they thought they were right. and they were not prepared to, their own egos took over, and they were not prepared to listen to anyone else, to their detriment, right? So in safety, we always talk about don't be afraid of the red, because in the old way of thinking, when you brought up anything that was a risk and you didn't have the right controls in place,
naughty.
Yes, your senior leaders would think, oh my God, what the hell? Why is this in the paper? Take it out. We don't want to hear what's wrong. So similar situation, right? It's actually good to know that you're in the red, because it helps you to improve and it helps you to grow. If you're not going to, if everything looks rosy and fine on paper, I would be worried.
It takes a big person to be like, okay, I remember I was in debt, like personally in debt, and I just didn't want to look at the amount. Like I had an idea of how much it was. Like I was like, I'm probably like 10,000 in debt. And obviously once I finally was ready to face up to it, it was a lot more, but it was the same kind of mentality. It's like, okay, I think I know what's going on, but if I really put it on a piece of paper, it's going to like be a sucker punch and I'm going to be like flipping out. So there's probably like a lot of that too. And especially if it's like your baby, like if this company is your baby, you don't want to point out the flaws. I get it, but it doesn't make it right. And it doesn't make it okay for your employees to live in denial when all the employees have to fucking deal with the fallout of that.
Were there times where you think that you were the toxic person?
This is your favorite question, Nicola. I'm here for it.
I think yes. I think when I was much younger, I worked in an environment in England where there was lots of different diverse people, and one particular person mistook me for being cold. And again, it comes from our culture, Nicola. We're quite forthcoming, quite straight up. South Africans are very straight up and will tell it like it is. And that person didn't like that, and ended up putting a grievance against me. But it's just, I think they didn't have an understanding of different, they'd been sheltered their entire life, put it that way, and they hadn't been exposed to different cultures, and took my I suppose abruptness, as you can say, as being intimidating, and that I was not including them in our social life at work, all of that, which was not actually the case. And it was quite difficult for me to accept that this person had taken me in that way, because I'm genuinely the kind of person who likes to get on with everyone. And I found it quite difficult, but at the same time, I was open enough to say, okay, maybe I was coming across that way, and maybe I do need to change the way that I approach situation. First, I was quite defensive and quite like, oh, what the hell is wrong with this person? Why is this person treating me like this? Why are they saying that I'm being a horrible person? I do get impatient. I know what good looks like and I know what can be done, but then we've got all these hundreds and thousands of reasons as to why it can't be done. That irritates the shit out of me. Just find a way and get it done.
Do you want to add anything?
No, I think just perhaps some advice for leaders on their way up is be open to feedback, really be open to growing and creating opportunities for improvement, learning from others, and just being true to yourself. I think that's really important. Speak your truth. Just, don't be afraid of what someone else is going to say or how someone else is going to react. If you really want to grow other people, you need to be true. So, yeah. That's it from me.
We really appreciate you joining us today. It's been a fantastic chat.
Mm-hmm.
I think we've had some good stories, and we've had some opportunities to learn and positive ways that we can do things differently. And I think it's really important for us to keep in mind that a growth mindset is what sets you apart as a leader, and especially in a positive or a toxic workplace.
Keep adding things to your toolkit that might be out of your comfort zone, but I'd say learn as much as you can. Never stop learning.
For sure.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I love it.
Thank you for joining us today. If you would like to share your story, we would love to hear from you.
Also, leaving a review helps us create more content because it shows us there's an interest in this topic.
For those of our listeners who do better with reading, we have closed caption available on YouTube.
See you next week, same time and same place.